Hello, we're back with part two of the pamphlet review, the most exciting part of everyone's day, I think. So let's see. Yeah, as you can see, I had to launch another Zoom, but that shouldn't matter. There we go. So we're moving on to, there we go, vaping and e-cigarettes. Fun stuff. So how they affect the body. Right off the bat, you can tell this is going for the kratom scare tactic method. It's very, very scary. Okay. So vapes or e-cigarettes are devices that use batteries to heat liquid nicotine and flavoring that mimics the taste and sensation of smoking tobacco. These can contain a ton of chemicals that when inhaled go straight into your lungs and can cause lasting damage to your body. So Phaedra, you're still in high school. So you've seen it a lot this year, I'm sure. What's vaping like in your area?
Well, I honestly didn't notice it until my junior year of high school. I'd actually never seen anyone vaping before that at school, although I had heard people discuss it. And now that I've seen it and I recognize it more easily, it does occur a lot. Even last week, I was in one of the bathrooms and there was a girl near the sink who had her vape pen, and she was smoking on it, and then as soon as I came up, she startled and pulled it away from her mouth and put it in her pocket. So it is very prevalent. I do hear people discuss it quite a bit.
Yeah. When I was in middle school, they used to have like the vaping ring. It was so weird. Everybody vaped and whatever. There were people that like would have different parts of kind of like those e-cigarettes and they'd like assemble them or whatever. It was weird. People like blatantly would smoke in front of the teacher and everything. So you just in the story you mentioned, like the girl tried to hide it once she realized that you were watching, but like it depends on the person. See, because it's just becoming like such a normal part of the school experience that like people don't really try to hide it anymore, but then other people do. It's concerning overall because I feel like this is also just such like a normalized thing now, but it's weird because you see the evolution from like the regular cigarettes. I mean, even at my graduation, like there were like so many people that were smoking just like straight up cigars. So it's still a thing. But now you see like the digital smoke. It's just a weird evolution, but let's see. Because these are still relatively new. So we're not entirely sure, just like with the Delta 8 and the kratom, we're not entirely sure how they affect people, but there has been a little more research on this. So, eyes and ears. You got, okay, Phaedra, why don't you take over for this one?
Okay, so eyes and ears. Vaping can help lead to thyroid eye disease, macular degeneration, and damaged hearing. So those obviously are very serious diseases. I personally have thyroid issues already. So then just imagine if someone who has a pre-existing condition, were to vape, that would affect me much more than it would someone else. So I feel like that's something that people don't take into consideration either. I know some kids at school who vape, and I know some of them have underlying conditions, so I'm sure that's making those conditions worse. Although to those students, I feel like they probably believe it helps with their conditions. Um, and then now moving on to the brain, vaping can lead to nicotine dependence and memory, mood, and attention alteration. Then, as for the nose and throat, that can lead to nosebleeds from dry nasal cavities and sinus infections. Yeah, just imagine that because nosebleeds, we all get them from time to time, but then just imagine how much worse that would be with vaping. It is serious, and now that is kind of making me wonder, because there are some people in my classes who get nosebleeds frequently, if maybe vaping is part of the cause of that. And then as for the teeth, vaping can lead to weakened tooth enamel, cavities, and gum disease. So as you go through these, a lot of these are the same effects as smoking regular cigarettes that you can buy from like a 7-Eleven or other convenience store. So a lot of people like to say that vaping is safer than smoking cigarettes, but as we're going through this list, you can really see they have a lot of the same effects, and I don't really think people recognize that enough. And then onto skin and hair, vaping and e-cigarettes can lead to wrinkles, damaged healing, and damaged hair follicles. Yeah, especially if someone has pre-existing conditions, the damaged healing could really affect them. And then as for lungs, vaping can lead to lung injury, shortness of breath, coughing and wheezing, and COPD and asthma. COPD is really serious. So that is very heavy. Oh, yeah. So obviously none of those are good effects. And then moving on to the heart, vaping and e-cigarettes can lead to elevated heart rate and blood pressure, narrowed blood vessels, and increased risk of stroke and heart disease. Then onto the bones, it can lead to decreased bone mineral density and increased risk of osteoporosis. And then at the bottom there, the pamphlet makes sure to mention that vaping is bad for your health and can cause real damage. Be smart, don't vape. So Cheyenne, if you are able to talk again, how do you feel about the be smart, don't vape portion there?
See, yeah, that doesn't really sit right with me. I understand, but then it's also because you have to see, like, inherently these messages themselves, like surface level completely, they seem fine, but then you have to look at the implications. Well, what does that imply about people that do vape? It again goes back to that, like, these people have failed like a moral test that everyone else has passed, which, like, that isn't the case. And people who vape aren't stupid. They're not stupid. It's just you don't always, like, the things that we're talking about here, you don't see them right away is the problem. Like, it's not something where, okay, I know entirely, like, I can recognize the full amount of the consequences of what I'm about to do. Plus, it's an addiction. It is an addiction. It's not, people who are facing a substance use disorder are not stupid. It's just, it is a condition. It's a disorder. Yeah, you're not, it's that, it's the implications. I mean, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you just said. And I feel like this kind of helps spread the message that the people, kids our age who vape are kind of like lost causes as well, with that be smart, don't vape, and the connotation it brings, because I know people who vape and smoke at my school, and they actually, a lot of them do very well academically. So it's not like it's just limited to people whose grades aren't great, or who live in more dangerous areas, because the area we live in is relatively safe. So it is a problem that affects a wide variety of people our age, and I don't think a lot of them realize the full effects, which is really dangerous.
Something that I didn't realize is I didn't realize there was a condition like specifically named for this, like the e-cigarette and vaping use associated lung injury. EVALI. I would like to see. I didn't even know that was a thing. So this accomplishes like what it sets out to. Like, now I am aware more of like certain risks that I wasn't before. My thing is, though, that because this is just like it's a one-sided like sheet. I would have liked if they had a little bit more, like they explained why some of these things happen, because I feel like too that's part of it. Like, it's one thing if I just list things at you and I throw things in your face. It's another if I understand why they're happening.
Yeah, and that what you brought up about the lung injury, I wonder if that's the same thing as popcorn lung.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember when I was a freshman in high school, and then even during my junior year health, they did this as well, going over the negative effects of vaping and substance misuse. So I feel like that could have been better explained as well.
Mm-hmm. What on here like has captured your attention the most?
I feel like probably COPD and asthma, because those are very serious conditions, and I actually do know someone who has asthma and vapes, I think. So that just seems like an extremely dangerous combination. So it is really scary that, not to use scare tactics, like some of the other brochures did, but it is really scary that people may not realize the effects that vaping have on their body, because it is pushed as kind of a safer alternative to cigarettes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I understand that. I feel like yeah, you can really see this comes off as like the cheesy kind of scare tactics that make me want to be like, okay, I don't really care what this is saying to me, because it's like the smoke all over the place. I do like how they picture some of the products that you can see. Like just like the kratom or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Barking dog.
Yeah, I think the one that's most recognizable to me is the one all the way on the right. That looks like it's a jewel, pretty similar to what most of the people at my school use. I don't think I've ever seen this one on the left at my school. And then maybe the one second from the left, that one does kind of look familiar. But I think it is nice that they provide a couple of examples. The only thing is, this banner over here, vaping is bad for you, etc. I feel like that maybe that could be placed somewhere different so that we could see full the full picture of all of these, because for the one at the on the right, which I think is a jewel, you can't see the rest of it.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, yeah. They're very obscured by like the smoke, which I understand the point. And you have like the recognizable features, but I still would like to see the whole thing, especially because like on the right, it's just like peeking out and it's like, okay, like I would like
Yeah.
to see. This one is from Fox Press, and it's actually from last year, which I was not expecting.
Okay, well, that's good at least. Hopefully these effects are more current. And another thing about vaping is that the long-term effects are not necessarily known because it is new compared to cigarettes. Because with cigarettes, we know that they can cause cancer.
Yeah.
But with vaping, that perhaps is like the number one reason why it is dangerous, is because we don't know how it will affect people in the long run, especially if they are young and still developing.
Mm-hmm. So what would you rate this pamphlet out of 10?
Maybe like a 7. I understand that it's supposed to be shorter, but it would be nice to have some of these effects explained more, especially like macular degeneration. I
Yeah.
feel like, because it seems like this target audience would maybe be teenagers, I don't feel like they would know what macular degeneration is, or probably even care about it very much unless it were explained.
Mm-hmm.
And then just at the bottom there, I feel like a clearer view of the different devices would be helpful.
Yeah. What do you think of the body graphic? I feel like it's kind of like goofy in that way. To steal
Yeah.
a word from our friend Adam, who's also in the organization, goofy, see what he says. When you have it like to this point where it's that goofy kind of scare tactic, it's like I really don't care, which is going back to a point I made earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's well designed in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that's put together well, but I don't really know how much of an effect it would truly have on people to recognize the effects of vaping. So
Yeah. So are we good with this one? You want to move on to social hosting?
yep, let's get on with social hosting.
I
Some
am
of the legal ramifications.
the most excited about this one because it reminds me of when we were in Dare. Because you can already tell it's kind of like that cheesy kind of pamphlet. It has like the social hosting is like in this weird font that's like broken apart. And then you have
And
like
the background.
yeah, no, that's just someone just like straight up getting arrested.
Yeah.
Should give you a preview as to what we're expecting here. A lot of text in this one. So who is responsible for underage drinking? I really need to find out. Something that I'm noticing right away, just because it's in my face right now, is the Stay Safe series. So this is from 2014 from Primo Prevention. So this might be a little outdated. We'll see. The important thing is that even if these are outdated, like we saw one from 10 years ago, they're still being circulated. So there still is relevance to talking about them, because even if the information, even if like what we're looking at still like, okay, I understand that this doesn't entirely follow the practices that we're using right now, like the substance misuse instead of substance abuse, it's like they're still being pushed. So I feel like it's still important to talk about, if that makes sense. Yeah. So let's see, getting into it. Oh my God, I love this picture. Phaedra, I can't wait to show you. Okay. Look at that at the bottom here. Look at those girls.
Are they saying no to drinking?
I think they are saying no to drinking. Let me see. Is this a case of, okay, no, I think Justin's, okay, I think this one follows like the standard pamphlet like format that I've come to expect, because I don't know if it's my fault, right? If I'm just like not used to reading the pamphlets, but it's like you saw with the Delta 8 and the Kratom. I don't know if it's because they're by the same publisher or anything, but it seems like the explanations for what the things are like in the back, which didn't really make sense, but I like how this one goes a little bit, follows the regular format, I guess I would say, because this one I think is like a case study, Justin's story, and that seems to be in the back. So it's like extrapolating on what you've learned, and then this gets into the actual point right away, which I like. But again, I don't know if that's a problem with like me or just, I don't know, but nothing cool about it. Teens, parents, and social hosting. Everyone at the local high school knows about Heather's parents. They're the cool parents. They let Heather throw parties every weekend, and they even buy beer for Heather and her friends. If Heather's going to drink, we'd rather have her drink at home, they say. Chances are that you've heard a line like this before from some parent like Heather's. Some parents mistakenly believe that by letting teens drink at their homes or on their property, a practice that's known as social hosting, they're giving kids a safe place to drink and are preventing alcohol-related problems. But when it comes to teens and drinking, there's no such thing as safe. Social hosting is actually dangerous for everyone involved. Supervised or not, teens that drink are more likely to engage in risky behavior. Adults who provide alcohol to underage teens can be held responsible for the results of that risky behavior. If a teen gets into an alcohol-related car accident or ends up being in the hospital with alcohol poisoning, the adult who bought the beer may wind up in jail or on probation. So right away, I think we're seeing a bit more, it's a different strategy than the previous ones have used. So with the Kratom, you saw like the heavy like scare tactics and everything. So that was like an emotional appeal. Is that that's ethos, right?
Emotional appeal is, I think that's, let
Is
me
that
see.
pathos?
I think it is pathos, but I'm not sure.
I think it is pathos.
Yes, emotional appeal is pathos.
Yeah. So you see, that was heavy pathos. This is also heavily relying on the pathos. Inherent logos in all of them, obviously, for those who took like AP Lang, but the Delta 8 was this was like the strictest logos that I think we've seen, the heavy logic. This one is like not even hiding it. This is very like case by case. So you have like the personal things right here. Like we're putting the people who are reading this into the situation. So like everybody knows a Heather, everybody knows a Justin. I have not read these pamphlets, but I can already tell Justin's story is going to be interesting. So like my point in saying that is it's a lot more personal than the other ones have been. So they're using facts and they're using specific examples, but you're also trying to get the people reading this like right into the shoes. So it's very, very obvious that like this is like something that you would be using in programs like DARE or like within the school. So the target demographic is like super obvious here. So what is social hosting? Social hosting is the term used to describe any situation where an adult lets underage teens drink alcohol. Social hosting can involve providing 3 kegs of beer for your teen's prom or graduation party, but it can also involve buying a 6-pack for your teen and a couple of his friends. In some cases, social hosting can be as simple as going on vacation and allowing your teen to throw a party where alcohol is served. Oh. So I guess that's I don't know. That seems like that would be tricky legally. Like, I guess you'd have to know beforehand. That's right. You can be a social host even if you're out of town. It doesn't even matter if you knew about the party. Oh my God, it's your house, it's your property, it's your responsibility. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so imagine if the parents are out of town, and then what happens if the there's child purchases alcohol of their own volition, and then they throw a party, then someone gets drunk and gets in a crash, then it would still be the parents' responsibility for the teen who threw the party then?
Yeah,
Even though they had no knowledge of the party?
that's crazy. I didn't know about that. I guess because it's like a case of like if you still left the alcohol accessible or anything.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. No, I didn't know that. Social hosting and the law, which again you have the the amazing images of someone getting arrested and teens drinking. Social hosting and the law. Several states, including Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Arizona, Utah, and Florida, have laws in place aimed specifically at social hosts. More recently, individual cities have passed ordinances that make social hosting illegal. Adults who provide alcohol to underage teens are facing serious consequences, including a revoked / suspended driver's license. Oh, okay. That's an interesting consequence to that. Like I could have my license revoked if I let someone else. Okay, that's weird. Heavy fines, jail time, and probation. That's not all. An adult who lets a teen drink can be held legally responsible if that teen gets hurt or dies as a result of drinking. A social host may end up paying medical bills or being sued for pain and suffering or property damage. Oh, that's so interesting. Party sober, keeping alcohol off the guest list. Planning a party? Here are a few ways that adults and teens can make sure that gatherings stay safe and sober. For parents, keep the guest list small and manageable. Have a 0 tolerance alcohol policy. Make it clear that anyone who brings alcohol will be sent home. Talk to your teen about your expectations for the evening. Lock up your liquor cabinet and make sure there's no beer or wine in the refrigerator. Stock up on plenty of snacks and non-alcoholic drinks. Stay at home the night of the party. For teens, send or hand out written invitations instead of announcing the party on Facebook or other social media sites. Tell your friends that the party is alcohol free. If someone shows up with alcohol, show them the door. Don't let guests bring people you don't know. Yeah, Schnuffen doesn't like that either. So okay, yeah, the tone of this one is so interesting. I can't determine if it's a good or bad thing because I'm sitting here and I am very obviously entertained by what is like being said. Like so it's keeping me captivated and I'm absorbing the information, but I don't know.
This actually reminds me of what we had to do for drug and alcohol education my freshman year of health. This is a pamphlet that I could imagine seeing there. We actually did an online module on this. I don't remember what the name of the site was, but it was very reminiscent of this. And you can tell that this is a little bit older. I know you said it's 2014 because they say Facebook as one of the social media sites. And people our age don't use Facebook that much. I only know one person my age who uses Facebook still as their primary social media. So I feel like this could definitely be updated to include like Instagram or Snapchat or something like that.
Mm-hmm. That reminded me of something I have to do later. But yes, that I didn't even realize yet the Facebook. That is an interesting thing. I like that if someone shows up with alcohol, show them the door.
Yeah.
Don't like guests bring people you don't know. Oh, this is funny. I like this. So, okay, a safe place to drink, there's no such thing. One of the most common misconceptions about social hosting is that allowing teens to drink at home helps keep them safe. Adults who let their teens drink often say that they're trying to prevent tragedies like accidents caused by drunk driving. These adults mean well, but they're forgetting about other consequences of teenage drinking. Alcohol is a depressant, which means that it slows down your body's ability to communicate and receive signals from your brain. I like the bolding. Alcohol also impairs your judgment and lowers your inhibitions. That's why people who are drunk are more likely to make bad decisions than sober people. This is especially true of teens. Teenagers' brains, particularly the parts that control decisions and impulse control, are still developing. When teens drink, they're even more likely to engage in risky behavior, like unprotected sex, fight, or do dumb stunts. Okay, that wording was great. Teens and young adults are also more likely to binge drink. People who binge drink can end up with alcohol poisoning, and if they don't get medical attention in time, they can end up in a coma or dead. There's only one way to keep teens safe from alcohol-related injuries and accidents. Don't let teens drink. The binge drinking is an interesting point because I feel like it implies a lot there. So it's like if you are a social host, if you're someone that allows that, then you're kind of encouraging your teens to develop like the habit. Even if you're not aware that they're binge drinking, you're telling them that it's okay, in essence, to drink, which encourages them to do it further where you can't see, and also to go to other parties where other parents are letting them drink, other social hosts.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. So they do bold two words here, which I think is interesting. They add the depressant and then the binge drink, which is actually three words, but two phrases. So I do like that they bring up that it's a depressant. I feel like that's important.
Yeah, we got some nice definitions there.
I like the definitions. Yeah, the binge drinking to me is really sticking out. And we have 10 minutes to do this, which I'm so sad about. So just the facts. Sobering statistics about teen drinking. So teens may not be able to legally purchase beer, wine, or liquor, but according to a survey conducted by the American Medical Association, many teens get access to alcohol from adults they know. 1 out of 3 teens said they could easily get alcohol from their parents. 2 out of 5 teens said they could get alcohol from a friend's parents. 1 out of 3. Oh my God. Okay. 1 out of 4 teens have been to a party where adults allowed underage drinking. The CDC reports that in 2010 alone, which is a bit of an outdated statistic now, nearly 200,000 teens went to the emergency rooms for drinking related injuries and illnesses. Oh my God. That's awful. The CDC also reported that almost 10% of teens said they gotten behind the wheel of a car after drinking. That's worse. Nearly 30% of teens reported riding in a car with a drunk driver. That's not all. The US Surgeon General says that alcohol is responsible for nearly 5,000 teen deaths every year. That's 5,000 teens that would be alive today if they hadn't had access to alcohol. The numbers don't lie. Teens and drinking don't mix, period. So that's awful is the best way to put that. I wonder like if it's gotten better or worse now is what I have to say, because I feel like alcohol is a lot more normalized now in these kinds of situations. Like everybody's just expecting people to drink and to vape and everything.
Yeah, and it also makes me wonder about the impact that COVID has had on all of this, because I feel like that might have made it harder for them to acquire alcohol, right? I would imagine. So, but I do know that some people were still illegally throwing parties when lockdowns were in place. So it would be interesting to see if they did that study again and produce some new statistics.
I see your point. When the music's over, Justin's story. This is going to be interesting. It was Justin's senior year of high school, and he had a lot to celebrate. He was just about to turn 18. He played tenor sax in his high school band, and he had just received a music scholarship to a prestigious university, a full ride. A week before graduation, Justin's friend Ron threw a big pool party. Ron's parents had gone all out. There was a DJ, tons of food, and they even rented a margarita machine for the occasion. When the party started, Ron's mother went around the house taking everyone's car keys. That way, she said, nobody could get into a drunk driving accident. Justin drank 4 margaritas that night. He didn't usually drink, but he was in the mood to celebrate. He was just starting his 5th drink when someone dared him to dive into the pool. Oh God, okay. It's the 2nd floor balcony. He didn't usually do stupid stuff like that, but he was feeling especially confident and it didn't look that hard. A few friends cheered him on. Some got their phones out to take pictures. Justin jumped and missed. He landed on the concrete a few feet away from the pool's edge and broke his neck. He was in the hospital for over a month and he had to have 3 separate surgeries. Justin's parents took Ron's parents to court after the accident because they were the ones who started the alcohol. The judge held Ron's parents responsible. They had to pay all of Justin's medical bills, and they're both on probation now. If they get caught serving alcohol to minors again, they'll go to jail. In some ways, Justin was lucky. The fall didn't kill him, and the doctors think that if he keeps working hard, he might be able to use his arms and legs again someday. Okay, so he's paralyzed. For now, though, Justin is paralyzed from the neck down. He's confined mostly to his bed, but he's working on using an electric wheelchair that he can control with his breath. He won't be going to college anytime soon, and he won't be playing the saxophone again either. So there's Justin, I guess. Sad. So what did you think about that story?
Yeah, it's obvious pathos, and again, it is similar to some of the other scare tactics we've seen. It is really heartbreaking that happened to Justin, and now because of the alcohol that he was served by Ron's parents, he now can no longer pursue the saxophone, which I'm assuming was one of his dreams. So that is really I'm sure that must be really hard for him to deal with on a daily basis.
I think Justin's story. Do you think they made that up? I'm sure they made that up, but
You think so?
I think they did make it up because I don't see anything on here about how it's like based on a true story. But they are taking a very extreme case of like the possible risks that are involved with that. They go out of their way to include things that they referenced earlier within the pamphlet, which I appreciate. Like how Justin was feeling like braver than usual, the impulse control, the car keys, like making note that like drunk driving is not just the only risk. But now, Phaedra, we have a quiz that we have to run through because we only have about 4 minutes left. So it's a lightning round. So we're going to test your knowledge about social hosting. Okay. So
Okay.
number 1, when adults serve or purchase alcohol for underage drinkers, it's called A, social hosting, B, socialization, C, supervised consumption, or D, adult hosting.
A, social hosting.
Oh my God, you're so right. 2, it's legal for adults to serve alcohol to minors. A, true, or B, false?
I'm gonna go with false for that one.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So 3, an adult can be a social host even if he or she is out of town.
That one is true.
That is true. So teens who drink alcohol are more likely to engage in risky behaviors such as A, drunk driving, B, having unprotected sex, C, binge drinking, or D, all of the above.
All of the above, D.
So 5, social hosting is a responsible way to prevent things like binge drinking and drunk driving accidents. A, true, or B, false?
That is false.
Yeah, and then you have the answers on the bottom here. I don't think we even need them.
Yeah.
I do like how they make note that this is 30% recycled paper. So we're being environmental. So Phaedra, what would you rate this pamphlet out of 10?
I feel like maybe 7.5. It does provide some good information, and like we had mentioned before, about how we hadn't realized that even if an adult were on vacation and then their teen threw a party without their knowledge, then they could still be considered a social host and could receive jail time, probation fines, etc. for it. And then Justin's story, that is interesting to me because I didn't think that they would make that up, but I do understand why you said that, and it does make sense, I think, especially because they're not referencing anything and it doesn't look like there's a credit for the photo. So, and you can see obviously the scare tactics that were present in some of the other brochures, although I feel like this one is, for lack of a better word, nicer about it.
I feel like this one's very campy, I feel like is the word. So do you feel like this method of doing it, like that sort of like campy feel, is more effective? Like, do you feel like this one got more through to you than the other ones who might have taken themselves like a little more seriously, like the kratom?
I feel like it depends on the person. Because personally, if I were presented with this information, I would prefer if it were presented in a very dry clinical manner. But I know for some of my friends at school, they would prefer if it were presented in more of this, as you said, campy manner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you mean. I feel like it does depend on the person. It also depends on the situation and the topic. Like, I don't know if it would be possible to present like the information for like Delta 8 in that like campy manner, but because the social hosting is so dependent on the social aspects, I feel like you have more freedom to do that. So any final thoughts before we get cut off in a minute here?
Well, I think that overall it's great that we have these brochures because they help provide more awareness about substance misuse and the other consequences that can result from it, legal and health related consequences. So I feel like it's great that we have these resources. So Cheyenne, what are your thoughts?
I want to thank everybody for watching this like 40-minute exploration. I'm gonna get cut off any second here, so thank you, and I hope you learned something from our pamphlet review. I'm gonna get cut off.